Vanessa Goldine with Bridge to Health Wellness and the Awaken Evolve Learning Center. This is just a short little video chat that I'm doing about the upcoming classes that I'm hosting and teaching for Chi Nei Tsang. Chi, energy, Nei, Chinese for in, and Tsang, the belly. Energy in the belly. Chi Nei Tsang is a modality that manipulates, moves, shifts, and changes, transforms energy in the belly. The visceral cavity of the body is where we hold all of our emotions within our internal organs. All of the experiences that we have in life are visceral, and we accumulate charges that lead to congestion of chi, lack of flow, not receiving new energy, not receiving new information. We get in a place where we're a little stuck and stagnant. It's a modality that has helped countless number of people around the world, as well as within my own practice here in Arizona in Scottsdale. So I'm going to be demonstrating a series of several of the techniques that I will be teaching at the two upcoming classes. These two classes are Chi Nei Tsang Self-Care, which is open to anybody who either has had a session with me or someone else and want to understand a little bit more about what that modality is all about and how to practice this as a part of Yang Sheng, the nourishing of your own life through self-care. So Chi Nei Tsang Self-Care, anybody can come. We are limited in space to only 8 participants. And the other class that I'm teaching is Chi Nei Tsang for an introduction to Chi Nei Tsang for professionals. Now, it's not limited to professional people, and when I say professionals, I'm talking about anybody who is in a relationship where they are caring for or ministering to other people. So this would be massage therapist, acupuncturist, Chinese medicine, people who practice traditional Chinese medicine, anybody who does cupping, or chiropractors, occupational therapists, physical therapists. The list goes on and on. Anyone who is a caregiver for others, anyone who has a child with autism or an adult who's ill and needs care. Chi Nei Tsang is a modality that just really works wonders because of what it primarily does. The primary thing that Chi Nei Tsang does is it increases the production of neurotransmitters, beneficial neurotransmitters, which are produced in the small intestine and the colon. So when we stimulate the microbiology to produce more beneficial neurotransmitters, we just simply feel better. The end result of most sessions when people come to see me is that they fall into a delta theta state. At the end of the session, I'm often waking them up and they just look at me and say, "What did you do to me?" I say it's just practically magical. So I'm going to take through the steps of the basic things that I do in a Chi Nei Tsang session in the following little video shorts. Thank you so much for joining in. Bridge to Health, my wellness practice, Awaken and Evolve Learning Center. Bearing it all for the sake of introducing you to Chi Nei Tsang, energy in the belly. So this is just a little bit about what I do in the first part of a session when a client comes to me. It's also the first thing that we're going to be doing in both of the two upcoming classes I have. Self-Care Chi Nei Tsang and Chi Nei Tsang, Introduction to Chi Nei Tsang. So the first thing we do is I'm diagnosing breath. I'm simply observing the breath just to see what kind of breathing pattern does this person have. Common breathing patterns that are represented when people come into the office for the first time is very low breath. So I will say, I just want to watch your breath and I just want to see how you're breathing. And literally it will look like this. Seriously, a person who's breathing at that very low level is only taking in not even a quarter of the amount of oxygen that they need for their microbiology to really be firing up. So that's oftentimes, that kind of breath is the breath of someone who's a little bit in the freeze mode. Maybe they've had a lot of trauma in their life. They're in a chronic holding pattern. They just can't get their breath moving. The other forms of breath observation that I see are someone who is very big with the belly breathing. I'm exaggerating. But they're not drawing any air no air is coming up into the upper part of their lungs and filling up into the back of their lungs. So they've got a good connection to their lower belly, but the breath is very big here. The belly is going out really far, but it's not actually resulting in much oxygen coming in, primarily because the rib cage is not involved. And when the rib cage is not able to open up and expand like a bellows, we're not able to draw air up into the back part of our lungs where we have the largest capacity for holding oxygen in the back part of our lungs. Okay, so other kinds of breathing patterns I see is someone who's very much a chest breather. This one's hard for me because I can't do it. This is the kind of breath of, it's an anxious sort of a breath. They're breathing just up here in the shallow part of the breath, in the chest, and they're not getting any action in the lower belly. So they are disconnected from here down. The other form of aberration of breath is they're disconnected from the chest up. There are reasons that people get disconnected from their upper body or their lower body. The heart is in here. We're often protecting this. So this is our way of shielding ourselves by just holding this area tight so that we can't feel what's in our heart of hearts. People who are very heavily disconnected from their belly are often have been sucker punched, experienced extreme vulnerability, and so they try to avoid breathing into the belly at all. Again, it's all about avoiding feelings. Chronic holding patterns are all about avoiding feelings. This is a very unconscious phenomenon, but the first thing we do is try to bring awareness to the breath, not approaching the breath as something that needs to be fixed or a problem to be solved, but literally helping the person to become more aware this is a pattern that you have. Because underneath it all, your body knows how to breathe naturally. So a natural breath is a nice full breathing into the belly. The rib cage expands, the back of the lungs fills up, and when we let this down, the whole process reverses. You see the involvement of the rib cage here, and the result is that I'm getting a full breath in the very back. This summer, I'm teaching 2 classes on breath 1 and breath 2. They are a progression of breathing that takes us through various meditations in order to bring us into more connection with the breath. So the first homework assignment I give most people is do 10 conscious breaths in the morning and then again at night when you go to bed, and then a little Chi Nei Tsang to your belly at the same time. To you, one of the first things we do, since we've connected with breath, we want to increase a sense of awareness about the movement of the diaphragm. So in the natural breathing, what we call Wen-Ho breathing, the diaphragm drops when we breathe in, the belly rises, the ribs expand, and the breath comes all the way up into the lungs. And when we release our breath, the diaphragm is now pushing up, and it's pushing the breath out of the lungs. We want to see a full engagement of the rib cage and the diaphragm because it is connected directly to the viscera of the abdominal cavity. So even though the diaphragm doesn't move very much, I think it's like a half an inch or so, it's an extremely interesting muscle. It's all concave and fills up underneath the rib cage. But when you breathe and your diaphragm is actively moving with your breath, this up and down motion of the diaphragm creates a pumping action, which helps move lymphatic fluid, which is passive, and blood, which is more active, through the viscera and to the organs of your abdomen, which are, of course, liver, gallbladder. You have your pancreas, which is up and behind this area here. In front is the stomach. Off here to the side, tucked under the ribs, is your spleen. And then we have the small intestine, which is generally mostly on the left side. The anatomical depictions of the abdominal cavity and the organs there are not correct. So the small intestine is generally mostly over to the left side. The colon, if it's in good shape, comes from your cecum here on the right, up the ascending, across the transverse, and then down the descending to the sigmoid, and then out the anus. So those are the primary organs. You also have kidneys in there, adrenal glands, you have your sexual organs, women, uterus and ovaries and all of that. Men have their testes. They're so vulnerable with their testes. Anyway, so we're back to breathing, back to the diaphragm. So when we're in session and we're working and people are just now first on the table, I take my fingertips, and in the self-treatment class we'll do the same thing. I take my fingertips, and as they breathe, I gently get my fingertips underneath and I gently pull down on the diaphragm. So we work all the way across the belly, opening up this diaphragm. I do this before I do anything else. Every Chi Nei Tsang practitioner has kind of their own method. But we just want to work through and stimulate the flow of blood in and through the areas that are attached to the diaphragm, all here along the lower belly. So that's one of the first things we do. When I'm in a practice session, I'm also expanding the rib cage and helping people get connected to their lung point. The top of your lungs is all the way up here, and the bottom of your lungs is all the way down here. They occupy more space in your abdominal cavity and upper chest than any other organ in the body. And so we work to get those ribs opened up and expanded and kind of lubricated for that nice full breathing. So we start with fingertips like so, and we work all the way across, and you'll feel all kinds of different sensations and referred pain as you're working in this area, just like, not heavy pain, but just messages. You get messages of where you have energy stuck. Another interesting area to work in here is the xiphoid process. That's this little kind of cartilage structure that's right between the upper ribs that meet together just below the breastplate. The xiphoid process on some people can stick out really far, other people it's more depressed. And the vagus nerve, which comes from the medulla down the side of the neck, runs through this area down and then connects to all the visceral tissues and organs within the abdomen, and that's a whole other topic. But we work that xiphoid process by opening that up and creating a little space right in here between the rib cage, pulling, coaxing, bouncing, circling the fingers, anything to just say, how does it feel in this area? So that's the second thing that I do when I'm working with somebody, opening up the lungs, getting connected. Demonstration of Chi Nei Tsang. We've talked about breathing, we've worked on the diaphragm, we've shown how we get our fingertips under here and we work the diaphragm. Now the next thing that I generally do is I want to get a feel for this very vulnerable part, our little underbelly here. And so the next step in self-care or in practice is what I call loving touch. Although I have a client who calls it kitty paws. And it's like kitty paws when cats are kneading. You're just using a very light touch here in the abdomen to get a sense of what's going on in here. Is the lower belly warm? Is it cold? Are there hot places? Are there swampy places? Are there places that feel tight, knotty, little marbles? Like just kind of getting an idea what's going on in here. Is it tight between the belly button and the pelvic floor? Do we have tightness down here into the pelvic region? How do the side ribs feel? We're just really working all the way around here to just sort of get connected to what's going on in the belly. And then the next thing I generally do once I sort of have a feel for the landscape is then I usually dive right into that belly button. The shape of your belly button is actually determined by the state of your internal organs and or your skeletal system. So if your skeletal system's out of alignment, you're having problems with your back or your gait is off, that's going to be reflected in your belly button. So we start working the belly button by taking our thumb. If you have very large thumbs, in the case of some gentlemen, you can also use your index finger. And you're just going to get in there right around the rim. You have a little rim that's very distinctive. It's like a circle, and when you pull on it, you can feel that it gets taut, and you feel the very circular shape of it. So you simply roll your thumb and your fingers around in the belly button and just explore it. The belly button is your original fascial scar. Your entire fascial network, the connective tissue that holds your whole body together, literally began to grow right from here. So by working in the belly button, we're able to affect all the organ systems and fascia of the body simply by working in this one very specific location. So we work all the way around, and then we start taking our fingertips and going in a circle around the belly. This is something anybody can do for themselves at night before they go to bed. This alone is enough to improve the function of your neurotransmitters and make you feel better. So that's working around the belly. It's really not necessary. It's all about learning how to take care of yourself through the practices of Yang Sheng. This is over a 3,000-year-old understanding that Taoists have about wanting to live long and be prosperous and healthy, so they do particular things in particular ways in order to keep their balance and take care of their body so they can enjoy their life. So this is just an extension of that practice, and the vagus nerve is a key protector of the body energetically. When the vagus nerve has low tone, basically you're kind of in the freeze mode. All of your systems are down, your digestive fire is low, your endocrine fire is low, you could be depressed, you could be having constipation, you could be lethargic. There are all kinds of things. You become sensitive to chemicals and insects and chemicals and all kinds of things. If your vagus nerve is hyperactive, you're more in the fight or flight mode. You may have diarrhea, you may not be able to sleep, you could be having bad dreams, you might be feeling very nervous, very edgy, or always on the go. You can't seem to let go, you can't seem to relax. Those are all indications the vagus nerve is jacked up too high. For most people, they'll vacillate back and forth. That's classic IBS symptoms: constipated one day, diarrhea the next. So working with the vagus nerve is a great way to help support your health and improve your neurotransmitter production. So we do a lot of work on the vagus nerve by working on the jaw and the neck, and we do that in the Qigong practice, and there's other things I can show you about that. It comes on down and then it connects to all the internal organs. It's the primary interface between your central nervous system and your autonomic nervous system. It's the great communicator. It's constantly reading your body signals, and when you're in fight or flight, it's going to put out the alarm. Things are not good, so digestion goes down the tubes, and then all kinds of problems ensue. To improve that, during a session, after I've really been able to soften up the belly, and then you're doing your self-care, you have to have a lot of preliminary work to do this before you can get down in here. And there's two places where you can help stimulate and improve the function of the vagus nerve, and that's right here underneath the xiphoid process. It's hard to do in self-care because I don't have the same trajectory with my hands as I do when I'm the other way around and I'm working with somebody. But basically the goal is to get up underneath this tissue here and pull up and down. So when you do this, a lot of people will experience a little bit of nausea. Sometimes there'll be some coughing or hiccuping. That's because we're stretching out the tangled up nerve. We're sending it the signal that it can lengthen, it can stretch, it can relax. It's a very powerful move. There are so many symptoms related to a vagus nerve that's overstimulated: coughing, GERD, choking, hiccups, digestive problems. It just goes on and on. So grabbing the flesh here, lifting up, pulling. It's quite a vigorous move, but you don't want to be attacking or creating pain. You want to just be at that threshold. Just hold, wiggle, jiggle, release, come back in and do it again 2 or 3 times. That's very effective. Another thing that's very effective for helping the vagus nerve And also for anybody who's like hysterical or having a panic attack, is literally grabbing the entire belly, looks great, doesn't it? And lifting up on it and shaking and wiggling and pulling up on the tissue in here. That's going to, again, lengthen that vagus nerve. It's going to send the signal, oh, hey, everything's okay. We're at a standstill here. We're being therapeutic. We're taking care of ourselves. Very, very powerful. Get in there and just really pinch and pull up on the tissue there. This is my extra 10 pounds I put on since COVID. All right. That's a little bit about Chi Nei Tsang for the vagus nerve. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just love teaching. I'm very excited about it. It gives me a broader audience. It makes it possible for me to help more people with what I call simple, common sense practices that everybody can do and that are not expensive. I'm not a big believer in taking a lot of nutrients. I do like homeopathic for support of the nervous system and other things, detoxification, but it doesn't have to cost a fortune to be healthy. Many people who come to me in my practice have been to see all kinds of people and spend all kinds of money. And in a relatively short time with the modalities that I do, they're feeling so much better, and they often say, why did my doctor never tell me this? Well, your doctor has a limited toolbox. Chi Nei Tsang, Taoism, Taoist medicine, big toolbox. Lots of good things in there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Vanessa Goldine, Bridge to Health Wellness, and the Awaken and Evolve Learning Center. You can follow me on YouTube at Awaken and Evolve, my YouTube channel. And I'm also on Instagram. Of course, probably a lot of you are seeing this on Instagram already. And then you can also follow me on Facebook, 2 Facebook pages, Bridge to Health and the Awaken and Evolve Learning Center. Blessings to everybody. Thank you so much.